short and stupid with the WAPTEC here, because we're going to do I'm a professional Russian. Sorry, I flibbity-gibbited. So here we go. A 19th century agreement between nations to ban expanding bullets during wartime is not a ban outside of war on civilian or police usage of any modern bullet when this was done in the 19th century origin story for it. And it wasn't in the Geneva Conventions. The U.S. specifically objected to and did not sign the Hague Convention, which is where this comes from. The expanding bullet article provision specifically. But it abides by this in practice, as it is now considered customary in war and under international law effectively, but only for war. The Geneva Vague Conventions, not Hague Conventions, prohibited weapons, projectiles, and materials, and methods of warfare that would, quote, cause superfluous or unnecessary suffering. Superfluous injury or unnecessary suffering. So the Geneva Convention isn't something you should quote for anything because it's worthless at this point. That's really stupidly vague. That's like somebody's wants a lot of weasel room. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is there's a lot of pushback on both sides, by people saying, well, this is the stupid. There was a shooting in Las Vegas, and I think the bullets might have been violating the Geneva Convention. I don't think a murderer cares whether they're violating the Geneva Convention. But if they violated the Geneva Convention, there would be no way for them to do it, or something like that. I'm actually seeing that once in a while in comments. So I'm just putting this video up to aggravate people who are, you know, well, according to this rule book, this car can't go over 55. No, it's in a 55-mile-an-hour zone. It can go faster than 55. Well, it's speed regulated. People remove governors and restrictors all the time. This is over the soft point versus hollow point versus full metal jacket penetration versus expansion argument that people keep having ad nauseum. Again, a bullet that is appropriate for taking down a very large game animal efficiently may also be effective and useful to make sure the bullet doesn't go through a wall and hit somebody on the other side. I'm going to point out something. Every gun owner and every gun channel that talks about self-defense or home defense, which are specifically different subject matter, always talks about bullets a specific way. And they're hung up on it, and other gun owners tell them, don't be hung up on that, even though it's a very good thing to say, because it's a bias they have that you should talk about. Most gun owners that want to be able to fire a gun in a house want to make sure it is incapable, under any conditions, of going through a wall and hitting their relative. Or getting out of the building and hitting the next door neighbor. If they can't see it, they don't want the bullet hitting it. So they want a bullet that hits a wall and stops. They don't want it to have any penetration, which means it needs to expend the energy in the first layer. Which means they want the bullet to expand, or fragment, or do all sorts of things where it'll make a nasty, painful wound, and even in some cases not even kill the perpetrator, but make them want to leave, because a live bad guy running away from you screaming loudly is a lot less dangerous than one's dropped to the ground who thinks he's going to die and wants to take out your kid. These arguments get pushed to the side by real operators, and I'm ex-military in SEAL Team 6, and instead of actually saying, yeah, that's what we'd like the bad guy to leave our building, not hurt anybody, and I don't want to accidentally shoot my kid or my cat on the other side of the wall. And some of you gun channel and gun board people don't get that someone's saying stuff like that, discouraging you from talking about not shooting through a wall and discouraging you from talking about non-full metal jackets. They seem to want you to talk in a way that would feed anti-gun ownership sentiment. It is in everybody's best interest that if somebody has a negligent discharge in their house, that the bullet doesn't kill the next door neighbor or go out of the building and kill somebody across the street. It should expend its energy into the wall, make a hole. Okay, it was an accident, nobody got hurt, and maybe I shouldn't have my gun anymore, but I didn't kill anybody. Or is that not the priority of Mr. Anonymous on a gun board someplace who's trying to rile everybody up about making sure the bullet is deadly at any distance through any material? Do any of you get this? And yeah, a lot of people talk really loudly. Well, I want to make sure my gun kills everything in sight and blah, blah, blah. Really? Because I'm not kidding, every single gun board I've seen, the ones that are sane talk about, yeah, I don't want the bullet getting out of the building, so they use soft point or a hollow point. They want to make sure it dumps the energy. That also means that if it hits an animal, it'll go in maybe a foot. Some of them will go through. But you get the guy who said, no, I want it to penetrate. If it goes through, that's better. Why would it be better? Why are you telling people to make sure the bullet wastes energy exiting the animal you're trying to drop immediately if you're hunting, or the guy who's attacking you? Why do you talk about headshots when that's not how to actually take a person out, if you just want them to drop and not hurt anybody and get it done? Why do you guys out there not get the sandbagging happening? And then I'd like to point out, all of you people out there who keep mischaracterizing these as, well, it's designed to cause more injury and make more bloody wounds. But in practice, what is actually used is the bullet that drops a person instead of two. And what you get are people who talk about Geneva Convention when it's not in it. They don't know how the Hague Convention should be typed in to spell it. And they keep misquoting its origin story. The term expanding bullet referred to actually a very specific bullet and specific characteristics. No, let's talk about how much it turns within tissue and how the AR-15 was designed to inflict pain and cause massive suffering, because that's exactly what somebody wants. An agonized, screaming man on the ground who's still armed and now angry and has no hope and doesn't give a damn if they get up on their one good leg and blow you away. Yeah, that's exactly what I want when I hit somebody in the leg. I want him angry, still breathing, screaming in agony, with a horrible wound that can't be fixed, so he knows he has no safety and no health and no possibility of getting home, so nobody will bother carrying him off the battlefield, so I got two other people out of my face. No, I want that one guy freaking mad at me, but still capable of killing me. That totally makes sense. Of course that's what they were for. To create horrible wounds and inflict horrible, horrible agony and torment and torture, and not make the person leave the battlefield so you have one less person shooting at you. What seems more logical to you? Oh, I'm going to take away his hope so he keeps firing at me. I'm going to make sure everyone knows, oh, once you're hit with one of these bullets, you're not going to make it, so you might just well sit there and keep shooting and become a hero. I would really want that. That's tactically smart. If anybody is making these suggestions, and they appear to be on your side, they are making you look stupid. And if they're your opponent, they are stupid. Or worse. And if anybody does anything that kind of leans into this kind of concept, just read back to them over and over again a 19th century agreement between nations for conventions of war banning expanding bullets is not a ban concerning outside of wartime or in any country for the civilians or police department, and for any modern bullet, because this is a long time ago, and it's not the Geneva Conventions, and the Geneva Conventions are deliberately vague. And, again, the U.S. government didn't sign on to it, so it's not relevant. We abide by it, but we don't have to. And we definitely, definitively, absolutely smack you in the face with a big rubber mallet. Done. We are not required to have these rules within the United States. Stop citing the Geneva Convention or the Hague Conventions, because they do not apply to you or anybody unless you're in the middle of a war and only between you and your opponent. And by the way, there are exceptions to it that every country has come up with. So stop this. And again, most of the people who bring this up are trying to make you look like an idiot if you talk with them. So stop talking with them. It's troll material. This is troll beef. And again, no military wants to make sure that their opponent literally believes that a single shot will make it to where there's no reason to take them back from the lines and treat them, because then they'll sit there and fight literally to the death. That's the last thing on earth I want from an opponent. I want them injured, I want them dragged off the battlefield, and I don't want them shooting at me anymore, so they go home. The whole point of a war is to end it, not make it literally impossible to end. That doesn't make any damn sense. Nobody's that kind of masochist. Okay, there are a few, but we don't want to discuss that. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. This has been a rant. I'll probably look below in the description for some useful commentary, some useful links.